Hey Meno Warriors, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kate Hartley and I share a weekly video with you every Monday about something related to menopause. By the way, if you haven't done so already, make sure to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss future episodes, and you can also click the bell icon and you'll be notified when the next video goes live. So today I'm actually going to be talking about the 5 things that you need to take into consideration if you really want to lose belly fat for good. If you incorporate all these 5 things, you will get rid of your belly fat, it will stay off, and you'll feel fabulous. So the first thing is to understand all the key issues. First of all, the word diet. When a lot of people talk about the word diet, they refer to a short period of time where they are pretty miserable, they're starving themselves, they're probably working out too much, and there is an end date to it. Well, the problem with that is once you've reached your ideal goal weight, once you finish your diet, you just default back to normal and you probably put even more weight on, because the body is really, really clever. The body will slow itself down because it knows you're restricting. The calories in, calories out equation. That is a very oversimplistic way of looking at it. You just look at the law of thermodynamics. So not all calories are created equal. Some will make you hang on to fat, others will help you shed fat more effectively. What it really comes down to is your metabolism. Your cells know what you're up to. Your body will always try and find balance. So when you are doing things that the body doesn't like, it will take measures that probably you don't like, which will slow down your weight loss goals. So I'm going to go into that in a bit more detail. But first of all, I'm going to just use an example. So say you have an individual who is eating 2,000 calories a day and they weigh 200 pounds. One of the ways that a lot of people use to lose the excess weight is by working out. So you have an extra cookie, so you think, oh, I just do an extra 10 minutes of workouts, it's going to help counteract the cookie that I just ate, or the meal that we went out and splurged on last night. It's not quite as simplistic as that. But say, for instance, you start exercising and you burn an extra 500 calories a day. So if you were burning 500 calories a day for 7 days, that's 3,500 calories over the course of the week. And that would equate to around about a pound of extra weight lost every week. So if you kept this up for 4 years, losing approximately 1 pound a week, at the end of 4 years, you would have disappeared. You'd weigh nothing if you use that equation. So it doesn't make sense, does it? The calories in, calories out equation is just far too simplistic. So somewhere along the line, something changes, because you can still lose 200 pounds, but you don't vanish. So what is it? The calories being used are from your exercise, any movement that you do throughout the course of the day, and your basal metabolic rate. So that is when you are at rest and how your metabolism uses up energy in your body. So for instance, if you are reducing your calories or working out to burn an extra 500 calories a day, it stands that your basal metabolic rate is also adjusting so that you don't vanish when you keep on losing the extra pound a week. Does that make sense to you? So you see, your body's really clever. At some point, it's going to know that when you are restricting, it's going to think, I don't like this. He or she is not giving me what I need in my food. And so I'm going to slow things down so that the calories that we do eat stay in there longer. That is why you don't suddenly vanish when you lose 200 pounds over the course of 4 years. Your body's really clever. If you start to restrict what you're eating, it will decide finally that you're restricting food, so it'll hang on to the food that you give it. It reduces the basal metabolic rate. So that means it can become more difficult to shift fat. And that's also why you find that after you've done maybe like a sort of 3-month diet where you're restricting yourself, you actually gain more weight afterwards, because you've upset the body's basal metabolic rate. Now, like I said before, some foods cause you to hang on to fat, other foods cause you to burn fat more effectively. The reason for that is insulin and your sensitivity to insulin. Now, it's important to understand genetics, because we're not all made equal. And while your neighbor may be able to eat everything and never get fat, you might just look at a cake and you put weight on. That is likely down to your insulin sensitivity or your lack of it. You may have become insulin resistant. And that is down to our food choices largely. Now, if you have diabetes 1, you are not creating insulin. And, a few years ago, a few decades ago, a lot of people with diabetes 1 died quite young, because they have to be given insulin every single day. We need insulin to get the sugar, the glucose out of our food out of the digestive system through the blood barrier into our cells. The insulin acts like a key, and we need glucose in our cells, in every single cell of the body. So if we haven't got insulin unlocking the door to let the glucose into our cells, then we will die. So insulin is very, very important. But the problem is a lot of us eat food and drink drinks that are just not helping us with our insulin sensitivity. We're becoming insulin resistant. And I sort of, just to use an example, the three main macros are fat, proteins, and carbs. Fat has very little effect on your insulin levels. Protein has a mild to moderate effect, but it's still pretty healthy. Whereas carbs, particularly a lot of the refined carbs that we all eat these days, they are literally spiking your insulin. Carbs will always have more of an effect on your insulin just by their very nature, whether it's fruit, vegetables, they have natural sugars in them. The problem is it's not the natural foods that are causing the problem. It's the processed foods, it's the refined sugars. In the States and in the UK, I think it's 152 pounds of refined sugar that we eat every year. And you're thinking, oh, I don't eat all that because I don't sit there with a big bag of sugar or stick it in my tea and coffee. It's because so much of it is hidden in the foods that we eat. If you bake your bread at home, you'll know probably, and if you don't already, omit the sugar. You don't need to add sugar when you're baking bread at home. I baked my own bread for, oh gosh, nearly 25 years now. And for when you followed the recipe to begin with in the early days, they all said, oh yeah, you need a teaspoon of sugar or a tablespoon. I can't even remember how much, tablespoon of sugar I think it was for a medium or a large loaf. And you don't actually need sugar in it at all. So yeah, everything is geared to us eating more sugar. And things like your shop bought passatas, your shop bought salsas, that sort of thing, they have hidden sugars in them. So much so that I've just finished a nutritional group, and we classify shop bought passata, shop bought salsa as a fruit because of the sugar that's in it, rather than a vegetable, even though really, technically, if you made it at home, it would be a vegetable. So it's very important to know that when you're eating far too many carbs, and we eat too many carbs generally throughout the course of the day, that tends to be, if we have a bowl of spaghetti bolognese, we'll have a massive bowl of pasta and only a small amount of probably bolognese, the lean bolognese on the top. And has that got any vegetables in? It may have tomatoes if you're lucky. Well, if we really significantly reduce the pasta size, but ate plenty of meat, ate plenty of vegetables with it, that would be a much healthier proportioned meal. But so many of us do the big bowls of pasta, the massive bowls of rice, the endless sandwiches. If you can find healthier options or choose healthier options, because there's loads of healthier options out there, that is going to significantly help you become more sensitive to insulin, which is what you need. So many of us are insulin resistant. So insulin is an anabolic hormone. That means it builds up. That means it helps us store fat. And when we have more insulin than we need, because we are insulin resistant, that is when we tend to store even more fat. So when you go on, say, the diet, and you're not losing weight as fast as you thought you might, it could well be that you need to improve your insulin sensitivity. You've just become insulin resistant, so it's going to take longer for that excess fat to come off you. Also, if you've got high levels of insulin, it actually makes you feel more hungry because your cells are not getting the amount of glucose from the food that you're putting in your body to feed the cells effectively. So technically, you're feeling like you've not eaten enough, whereas really you have. It's just that the key to unlock the door to allow some of the glucose into your cells is only open a crack, whereas you should be wide open. It should be, come on, take what you need, and then it closes again. Also, if you have high levels of insulin, it does slow down your basal metabolic rate, which means it's harder to burn fat. So not only are you hanging on to fat because of the anabolic, the building up aspect of insulin, you're also feeling more hungry, and it's taking you longer to actually get rid of that fat. Another reason why intermittent fasting is good in a lot of cases, because it allows your body time for the spike after you've eaten food of the insulin to actually come down and stay down. The problem with a lot of us is that we're eating rubbish food, so we're not nutritionally satisfied. So then in a short window of time, we're eating more rubbish food and more rubbish food and more rubbish food. And the insulin takes a little bit of a lag, but as your sort of blood sugar spike, your insulin then comes up, and then you're eating again because you're still hungry, so it comes up, and you're eating again and it's going higher and higher, and it never really gets a chance to go down. And that is a self-perpetuating scenario. If you have just like had a splurge, you've had a party at the weekend and you sort of let your hair down, that's not going to have any major effect. It does raise your blood sugar levels for the few days afterwards. It will probably negatively affect your sleep for 3 days as well. But on the whole, it's not a major problem. It's when you're doing it consistently over time, weeks, months, years, that you become insulin resistant. And then, of course, you can become pre-diabetic, diabetes 2, so not diabetes 1, different thing. And you can reverse it through lifestyle, but you just need to be aware of what you need to do. So you may actually want to significantly cut down on carbs if you are pre-diabetic or diabetes 2, so that you can allow your insulin sensitivity to get to where it needs to be again in your body. A couple of extra little things: apple cider vinegar, fresh lemon juice, cinnamon, they all help you regulate your blood sugar levels. But just to do that alone is like putting a sticking plaster on an arterial bleed. Start with the carbs, work on eating healthy carbs, fiber-filled carbs. So there's nothing wrong with fruits and vegetables. They fall in the carbs category. We need loads and loads and loads of those. But just be aware that it's the refined stuff and the processed foods that you want to be eating much less of, depending on where you are on the scale with your fat loss goals. So the third aspect is exercise, and not necessarily for the reason that you think, because I think when it's very easy to think, oh, I had a big meal last night, so I'm just going to work out a bit harder today and burn off the extra calories. That is not necessarily the reason why you want to be exercising. When you exercise, you stimulate the secretion of human growth hormone. That helps to improve your insulin sensitivity. So when you're exercising, your muscles absorb a lot of the glucose from your blood. So if your muscles are absorbing the glucose, that means there is less glucose left in your system that the insulin has to then mop up. So do you see how important that is if you are insulin resistant or pre-diabetic or diabetes 2? If you can work out and build your muscles, not only is it going to help you burn calories more quickly, because if you've got bigger muscles, or if you've got more muscles, you're going to improve your basal metabolic rate, your metabolism will speed up, which means you burn fat more effectively. But it's also mopping up glucose out of your bloodstream, which is really, really important, particularly if you're insulin resistant. Now, through menopause, of course, our muscles atrophy because as estrogen falls, cortisol rises. Cortisol has a catabolic effect. So insulin has an anabolic effect, it builds up. Cortisol has a catabolic effect, it breaks stuff down, which is why we're at much greater risk of brittle bone disease, and why if you don't work your muscles, you end up going very puny and much more brittle and frail, and you lose your balance and you fall over and you fracture your hip. And there's a huge amount of people who die in hospital because of hip fracture related deaths. Don't be one of those people. So you want to be building up your muscle, because if you're not actively working your muscles, you will lose them. They're not going to stay, and they go quite quickly too. So strength training has myriad benefits. It also releases happy hormones. It helps you gobble up stress hormones. But specifically around insulin, you're doing yourself a massive favor by working on your muscles, because it's helping to mop up some of the glucose that's in your blood, which is going to make you more insulin sensitive, which is what you want. Just to quell a quick myth, people say, oh, if you want to get rid of belly fat, just do more crunches. That is not going to work. It will create abs. You'll have nice abs, but if they're covered with fat, you're not going to see them. It will improve your core strength, which is great. But again, if they're covered in fat, you won't see them. Crunching, just because the abs are closer to the belly, there is no special relationship between the fat and the muscles just because they're closer together. You need to be working out muscles all over the body, ideally your gluteals, so your bum muscles, your thigh muscles, your hamstrings, so the ones at the back, your big muscles, because those are the ones that are going to have the biggest impact on getting your metabolism spiked and firing off again. When you strength train, you also promote the secretion of human growth hormone, and that is a fat burning hormone. It's known as the elixir of youth. You want as much HGH as you can get your hands on as you get older. So what sort of training? You want to do strength training, resistance training. So anything that involves against gravity. So you could be using loops, you could use bands, you can use weights. If you really want to get ninja at it, use heavier weights, and you want to be getting to use sort of the second or third rep from the end of your reps, where you're thinking, oh, I'm actually near failure now. That is going to have the most profound effect on your muscle building. And also steady state cardio, so that's something like walking, hiking, but not to such a degree that you're huffing and puffing, because then it becomes anaerobic. You want the sort of steady state cardio phase because that helps you burn fat more effectively. If you're doing high intensity interval training, that's fine, but make sure it really is short bursts of high intensity activity, because otherwise you're spiking your cortisol levels. Cortisol increases your insulin, and cortisol has that breaking down effect on the body. So you want to keep your cortisol in the healthy range as much as you possibly can do. That brings me on to cortisol and stress management. So when you are stressed, your body doesn't recognize the difference between being stressed from a deadline at work or the saber-toothed tiger that might be trying to eat you. Your body still releases glucose into the bloodstream so that it can power up your muscles for you to either run or fight. It's a much faster way than releasing fat to provide the energy for you to get away. So that releases the blood sugars, and that is also going to make you feel more hungry. That is going to trigger your craving. So if you're under a lot of stress chronically for a long period of time, you might find that is what is causing the cravings if you struggle with cravings. Talking about weight loss and belly fat, cortisol is a major player when it comes to getting rid of belly fat. So stress management is really, really important, as well as the other tips that I've mentioned today. Stress, because we have 4 times the amount of cortisol receptors around the belly as we do in any other part of the body. Cortisol tends to dump all our fat around the middle. So you'll often see really chunky people around the middle, and then they've got little stick legs. That is a typical cortisol body. So to bring down your cortisol response, your stress response, you need to recondition your nervous system to quieten itself. So there's several things you can do for that. One, again, is exercise, because exercise is fabulous. It burns up stress hormones, it releases feel-good hormones, as well as all the other benefits I've mentioned already. Mindfulness, being aware of how you feel, rather than distracting yourself or eating or drinking to remove those emotions. Actually tune into yourself every now and again and think, actually, how am I feeling? And just becoming aware of it. Once you recognize that you're feeling a certain way, it just puts you back in touch with your emotions. We are so quick to grab for something to eat or drink to solve what we think we might be feeling, because we've not really thought about what we're feeling. So by becoming more mindful about it, it can help to calm that stress response, because you can take the right actions to deal with it. Another one is deep breathing. I'm a psychotherapist, I'm an anxiety specialist, and one of the first things I teach all of my clients to do is how to effectively deep breathe. We cannot be stressed and relaxed at the same time. It's a physical impossibility. And we can trigger that relaxation response through deep breathing. So whenever you're feeling stressed, get into deep breathing. Just nice, slow, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Hold it for a few seconds at the top, hold it when it's out for a few seconds at the bottom, and just keep doing that for time and time again. If you struggle with stress, if you struggle with panic attacks, if you're anxious a lot of the time, make sure that you spend 5 minutes doing it in the morning, probably 5 minutes at lunchtime, and 5 minutes before you go to bed. That will have a really dampening effect on your nervous system. Meditation is a great one. I recently learned this new technique from Brendan Burchard, who is our chief growth officer in the company that I work with. And he was saying he's done this meditation. You can find it on Google YouTube in actual fact. If you just Google Brendan Burchard's guided meditation, I think he just uses the word release. And he says it fast. It's like release, 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 release. Closes his eyes. He listens to some music. They got one from Wayne Dyer. And it's a really nice meditation. But because you're just saying the word all the time, it sort of helps to declutter your brain. And when thoughts do come, you just let them go. That's the whole point of meditation. It's not to, oh, a thought came in, damn it. It's just they will. And eventually, when you get really good at it, you probably are able to keep that space. I'm useless at meditation, but I do like that Brendan Burchard one. And because you're focusing on the word too, because you're focusing on release, it sort of takes away the thoughts from other things. And often I use that if I'm struggling to go to sleep, and it nearly always works, and I drift off. Bringing me on to sleep. Sleep improves everything. So make sure you're bossy with yourself around your sleep hygiene. I know it can be really hard, particularly if you're menopausal, you're getting hot flushes, you're getting anxiety, deep breathe, exercise. But there are so many things that we could do to improve our sleep, and we don't. Probably because we're too tired and we can't be bothered to do the things that we know are going to help us get a better night's sleep, is kind of the irony of it. But make sure you get to bed early enough to give yourself a good sort of 7 to 9 hours in bed. We all need different amounts of sleep, but there is no doubting that we all need a certain amount of quality sleep. So it's a bit like, how fast will you burn fat? It's how well do you sleep? It's all subjective, but there are very many of us that could do a lot more to help us sleep better, like avoiding screens at night time, like having dim lights on before we go to bed, like instead of watching a sort of, I don't know, action movies before bed don't really affect me too much. But if I'm on the computer, it really, really messes up with my sleep. And I've started listening to an audible book. I don't even read my Kindle on my phone anymore, which I used to do a lot of, just to avoid the screen. So there are things that we can do: not eating too late, not drinking too much alcohol, not eating too much sweet stuff, avoiding caffeine. They're keeping your room nice and cool, keep the window open. There's loads that you can do to help improve your sleep. And vitamin D, make sure that you're getting outside. We're humans, we're designed to be outside. We're not designed to live our lives in a box. Try and get, I mean, it sounds ridiculous to say it, but try and get a minimum of 20 minutes outside every single day. And I know so many people struggle to do that, but we need it. We need the ultraviolet on our skin. We need it in our eyes. We just need to be outside. We are not designed to be indoors as much as we are. And that does have a negative impact on your sleep. The vitamin D is a key for every aspect of being human. It will help you with your mental health. It helps you with heart health. It helps you to fight cancer cells effectively. There is not one thing that vitamin D does not do that benefits you. So make sure that you're getting out for a minimum of 20 minutes every single day. Even if it's in 4 blocks of 5, just make sure that you're getting some time outside. And then finally, the 5th point is knowing that this is a holistic thing. It's a big jigsaw puzzle. There are lots of little elements that fit together. It's not just one thing that is going to resolve all this. Yes, you could fix your stress levels or how you respond to stress, because stress is always going to be out there. It's how you respond to it. That's the thing you need to work on. But if you're eating the carbs, that's still stress on your body. If you're not sleeping very well, if you're not strength training, you're not doing yourself all the favors to help you lose the belly fat. And belly fat is not that hard to do. You just have to be consistent and habit forming in spending some effort doing all these things. Time outside, that should not be an effort. Prioritizing your sleep, you really ought to be doing that in any case. Exercising, if you're menopausal, you need to strength train. If you want to be healthier in your latter life, you have to strength train. If you want some help getting started, click the Get Your Sparkle Back form in the description beneath this box. If you're listening to this on social media, it's in the link in my bio. And I can help you get started on a plan that's going to work effectively for you. I'm 53 at the time of recording, and belly fat was one of my main problems when I went through perimenopause. Belly fat, anxiety, hot flushes, night sweats. I used to drench the bed. It was revolting. And I've found the way that works really, really well. But when you have an understanding of how nutrition serves you and how useful strength training is, as well as stress management, as well as understanding that calories in versus calories out is not the be all and end all, you will get such great results. And it's just a small few things you need to incorporate. And you might think, well, I have no idea. I've never done fitness. I've never looked at my nutrition. I just don't know. Message me, because I can give you so many resources that will help you do that. That is what I work with every single day. That is what the free group is that I've just recently finished running. If you'd like to be put on the waiting list of my next nutritional free group, which also includes some really awesome strength training exercises in it, just leave me a comment or send me a message. and just say, put me on the list, waiting list for the next free nutritional group. And I will just keep a note of your name, your details, and then I can send you out an email when I'm getting ready to launch that one next time round, because it was really, really helpful. I spent a lot of time. We do live videos. We have a live Q&A at the end of it. It really is an opportunity for you to learn a lot, but also it's very interactive. It's in a Facebook group. I go live every day of the group. And it's a really great option for you to just learn more about how you can eat for ultimate fat loss, but sustainable fat loss that's not going to have you vanishing, and it's also going to help you balance your macros effectively, so you're becoming more insulin sensitive and less insulin resistant, and get rid of that belly fat and any weight gain that you want to get rid of in a healthy, sustainable way. It's not deprivation. I love my food and drink. If I had to starve myself, there's absolutely no way I'd do it, and that is not the right way to do it. You need to eat to keep your metabolism revved. You need to eat for energy levels. You need to eat to feed your muscles effectively, particularly as we go through the menopause. Food is such an important aspect of it. So just message me if you'd like to be put on that waiting list, and I'd be delighted to share that with you next time I host that group. So just looking at the holistic side of things, you have your chemical, your emotional, and your structural. So your chemical is like your hormone balance, getting the stress levels down, becoming more insulin sensitive. You've got your emotional, which is what is your purpose in life, helping you manage overwhelm, reducing that stress response effectively. And then your structural is obviously your exercise, getting out into nature daily. We live such sedentary lives, and they are not good for us. So just be mindful of that triad of things that you need to be aware of in order to have a holistically healthy lifestyle. The more you can incorporate all aspects of a healthy lifestyle, the more focus you'll have, the better you'll sleep, the more energy you'll have, your weight will come off, and it won't really be an issue, because the way you live your life helps to maintain that healthy weight. It won't be a battle anymore with the scale. It won't be a battle with this internal demon that's, making you make the wrong food choices. And then one day you're just going to think, I've got it. I've got the knack of it. This is it. This is my lifestyle, and it's a lifestyle I love. And having that happy, joyous, freedom, peaceful lifestyle, well, that is the price of looking after your health. So thank you for your company today. I hope it's been helpful. If you've got any comments, please leave them in the comments below. If you've got anything that you want to message me individually, feel free to do so. If you want to send me a private message, because I understand that, on YouTube it's a bit difficult. If you want to send something a bit more personal, just find me on Instagram at Kate Hartley UK. It's also linked in the description box below, and I'd be more than happy to help you out there. So again, thank you for your company. Make it a great week, and I look forward to chatting with you again soon.